What is going on, everybody? AHS Rules back again with another video, and we're here for another Ring of Honor TV review episode number 60. I cannot believe I've had to get in front of this camera 60 times and talk about ROH, but obviously I have. But before we get in depth with the ROH TV review, AEW Dynasty will be taking place this Sunday, and while almost every match, I'm certain, on the card involves a Ring of Honor alumni or member that appears on the Ring of Honor roster now, there are two main matches that I want to talk about and proclaims to ROH. But if you want to know my full thoughts on the Dynasty card, I should have my predictions video out on Saturday prior to the event. But again, Ring of Honor related notes. Mark Briscoe, the current Ring of Honor World Champion, will team with Eddie Kingston and Adam Copeland versus the House of Black. Again, Mark Briscoe, Ring of Honor World Champion, defeated Eddie Kingston to win the championships. Now they have to team together and face the House of Black. But I guess more importantly, because there are championships involved in this matchup. A very hilarious, over drama. This is taking a long time. There's a lot of words you can describe this rivalry and situation with. I think the word I'll use is unnecessary. But in a winner-take-all match, the Ring of Honor six-man tag team champions Jay White and the Gun Club, representing Bullet Club Gold, will face AEW Trios champions, the Acclaimed and Daddy Ass. Now, with it being winner-take-all, I do not know if that means these titles will be unified, the Ring of Honor World six-man tag titles won't exist anymore, etc. That's a wait-and-see situation, but this is a winner-take-all match. And the only thing that I find funny, well, there's a lot that I find funny, but the main note that I take out of this is that they just made new ROH six-man tag team titles, and for them to be around for a month, I would find that funny if the titles are discontinued, but that's a wait-and-see situation. But like I said, you want to know my thoughts on Dynasty, which takes place Sunday, I should have my predictions video out on Saturday. But now, let's get into this ROH TV review. I will say, before we get in depth with the review, I'm going to give credit to the crowd. A lot of times, ROH crowds aren't as excited or energetic because they tape it after Collision, they tape it before Dynamite. The crowd there is not really there to see ROH, but the crowd there tonight, they were lots of fun, loud for a lot of the matchups, so I will give credit where credit is due. And the first of those matchups was Aaron Solo versus Bryan Keith. It's back and forth after the Code of Honor. Solo gets the advantage after pushing Keith into the ring steps on the outside. Keith lands a T-bone suplex after a big boot, and then Solo reverses a Tiger suplex by landing a double stomp, goes for a pin, kicks out, and lands another double stomp for another 2 count. Keith places himself on the top rope to hit a stunner off of the second rope to win the matchup. So Bryan Keith picks up the victory. Next, in a 6-man tag team match, John Cruz, Damian Chambers, and Savon Trutt versus Lance Archer and The Righteous. Vincent and Chambers start the match for the respective trios, but The Righteous hit the Orange Sunshine and Archer hits the Blackout for a quick matchup, and again, the crowd was very into it. We get a vignette and then a backstage promo involving the Premier Athletes with Mark Sterling. The vignette just showed them working out with Mark Sterling, talking over it. And then in the backstage promo, Sterling's talking about how they've been off working out and becoming better. And that Super Card of Honor was phase 1. And what happens next will be phase 2 and their future plans. Next matchup is J.D. Drake versus Big Shotty Lee Johnson. Drake uses his power in the beginning of the bout and follows this up with lots of chops. We get a big-time spine buster by Drake for a 2 count, as I have something in my eye. Johnson gets some momentum after a dive to the outside and a frog splash once back in the ring. Johnson also hits a sunset flip powerbomb and a frog splash to pick up the victory, trying to get some more momentum after losing at Super Card of Honor. Next matchup, Abaddon versus Allison Kay. Abaddon bites Kay after the Code of Honor, and then Kay becomes more aggressive after this, landing lots of chops and Samoan drops. But Abaddon lands a crossbody and follows this up with the Black Dahlia to pick up the victory. Next matchup, and I made a little side note for this matchup, the Iron Savages versus the Infantry. And the side note that I put, I feel like we get this match at least once a month. Now, I didn't want to be like, hating or anything, and I looked it up. They at least either face off or team with each other at least once a month the past 5 months is how far I went back. But over the past 5 months, they've either faced each other or been involved in 8-man tags with one another, but it is what it is. Boulder and Bravo start the match off. Jack Jameson appears on the apron with the Savage Sauce to cause a distraction, but the second time around when he doesn't, it does not help, and the almost said the Iron Savages won, but they lost. The Infantry won after they hit boot camp. After the matchup, the Premier athletes Tony Nese, Ari Daivari, and Josh Woods come out and attack the Infantry. However, Dalton Castle comes out to make the save, and then soon after, Mark Briscoe, Lee Johnson, and Bryan Keith come out as well with the Premier athletes running away. So I don't know who are coming after the Premier athletes. I don't know what Premier athlete, It's just an attack after a match that we'll have to wait and see what happens after this. Taya Valkyrie, Diamante, and Layla Gray team up to face Layla Hirsch, Kiera Hogan, and Trish Adora. There was a Taya Valkyrie interview earlier in the night. And essentially, it was just saying that Johnny TV is off at rehabbing. That's a big difference. Rehabbing after the matchup at Supercard of Honor because he took a lot of damage. Hogan and Taya start the match off with Kiera being trapped in her opponent's corner. Several tags are made, but most notably, Adora lands a grounded suplex on Taya with both of them tagging out after it. Hirsch lands a suplex on Gray, Layla on Layla Violence. Hogan hits the Face of the Music on Gray to win the match for her team. Layla Hirsch, Kiera Hogan, and Trish Adora. Next matchup is Nick Comoroto versus the Beast Mortos. If you don't know who the Beast Mortos is, he is formerly known as Black Taurus, one of my favorite wrestlers, so I'm glad to see him on Ring of Honor this week. Power between the two men are showcased early to Mortos lands a Hurricane Rana. Mortos lands several forearm and kick combos and follows this up with a 619 and wins the matchup with a side over the shoulder moonsault, as commentary called it. I feel like he has a creative name for it, but we'll have to wait and see what it is called. Next matchup is Lady Frost versus Marty Bell. Back and forth matchup with mainly thunderous chops and lots of trash talk by Bell, but it stops once Frost lands a cartwheel cannonball for a 2 count and a spinning moonsault to pick up the victory. As now we go into tag team action involving members of the Dark Order, John Silver and Evil Uno versus Zach Patterson and Frank Milano. Uno and Milano start the match off, but quick tags are made with Silver being trapped in his opponent's corner until he is once again able to tag Uno in, who they do not get any offense off on Uno. Uno dominates them and wins the matchup with Something Evil, which I believe is Baron Corbin's finisher, the End of Days. I feel that is what Baron Corbin called it, but that is what it was. But the Dark Order win this match. And now we get our main event matchup. Proving Ground bout, Mark Briscoe versus Griff Garrison. But before we get into talk about the match, Griff Garrison and Cole Carter are interviewed in the back earlier in the night, and are essentially asked, will they give Serpentico his mask back? And they said no. And if he wants to get it back, they're willing to beat the crap out of him again. So, spoiler alert, Serpentico does not do anything about this, tonight at least. Mark uses redneck kung fu early on and follows this up with a dive to the outside. Garrison doesn't get any offense in until Maria and Cole Carter cause a distraction. Garrison hits a torture rack bomb for a 2 count. Mark dives onto both Garrison and Carter. Carter gets out of a way of a first J Driller attempt, but gets hit immediately with a big lariat. And then Mark hits the J Driller to win this matchup and prepare for his matchup Sunday at Dynasty. So, I mentioned Dynasty a lot on this review because they mentioned it a lot on this episode of TV, but good to see Mark Briscoe have a match on ROH TV. We got a closer look at the championship that I asked for last week, so thank you for that. Like I said, I enjoyed this episode all around, and very intrigued to see what will be happening on next week's episode. I will say this. This is probably the perfect time to say it, but AEW's taping schedule is confusing as balls. Normally, I make note like, oh, this episode was taped so-and-so and so-and-so. But with a pay-per-view coming up Sunday, last time I'll say it, but they got Collision and Rampage on Saturday as well. I don't know when the hell they'll tape ROH. I know they have taped some matches, because, backing up a little bit, when I was looking up research of how many times the Infantry and Iron Savages faced off against each other, I got spoiled on some of the matches for next week, but the good thing is I immediately wiped them out of my memory. I don't remember what happened, but I'll have to talk about it again this time next week, so we'll see what happens then. So, thank you for watching this video. Check out my Dynasty Predictions video on Saturday. Like, comment, subscribe, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. I do have to pick my nose, so I'll make a note of that.